Hello, everyone. I have a special guest with me today. Do you want to tell us, everyone, who you are?
I'm Stacy.
She's
One of the material girls.
the other half of the material girls. If you don't know what we're discussing, you can go back and find that later. But we are here for Take Home Tuesday today. Always a fun segment where maybe you get to learn something new, right?
Yes.
Stacy is learning something new today, new
Trying.
skill. So this week we're going to talk about, it's kind of, maybe some of you are going to start getting ready for Christmas, and we know that it's a nice week of Thanksgiving, and we hope that everybody takes time to really think about what they're thankful for and the blessings they have in their life, because there's things all around to always be thankful for. And we won't talk about that much because then we'll both start crying, and that won't be good. At least I will start crying. But anyway, as you know, your Thanksgiving meal is over. Maybe you want just a little something to do. And so we have a project today. Of course, I always think that every project is pretty fun, and try to keep it fairly simple. Now today's kind of taking what shall we say, an old-fashioned skill maybe that not as many people know how to do, but combining it maybe with an old Christmas ball. So I don't know, and Lizzie is back today behind the camera for us because she's on break. So I don't know if you noticed when we started, Lizzie, if you want to come in on these little Christmas balls. Just some old balls that we've simply decorated. New twist, given some old Christmas decorations some new life. So these ones are kind of what I would call maybe the boho chic coloring.
Yes.
But you could choose whatever you want. And so we are repurposing some old Christmas balls and making them into something new. So something you can do, and we're sitting on the couch up here in the nest in our retreat center, like we just
Watching
got
our
done.
soap operas.
Yes, and we're, our bellies are full after eating, not really, but we're pretending. So to do this, it's very simple. We're actually going to use crochet. You could use knitting, or you could even just wrap fabric or yarn. Do you have a yarn basket laying around? If you look at Stacy's yarn here, I'm going to pull some off, and Lizzie, you might want to come in just a little bit on this. Stacy's yarn kind of already has like a little texture to it. And what we're taking today after we crochet them is wrapping them around the Christmas ball. You could actually do that without crocheting if your yarn has a kind of a texture to it. And there's so many different yarns out there. These ones happen to have a little metallic thread in them. Stacy's using one. These are all yarns that just have laying in a basket. Stacy's has a little texture to it. It's a little thicker one. I'm using a more natural looking one that kind of has some flex in it. So you can use whatever you have laying around. But I like when you do the chain stitching because it adds a layer kind of texture to it and a little pattern of design. So crochet, we're going to go backwards in school, and Stacy just learned how to do it.
I just learned how to do it.
And she's been concentrating so hard. I'm not giving a crochet lesson. I am not a professional crocheter by any means. But my grandma McNair was a fabulous crocheter and knitter, and it was so fun to sit there and watch, and she'd make those doilies so quickly.
My grandma would do it too.
Yeah, it's a lost art.
Yes.
And I don't have that opportunity now to learn how to do all that fancy stuff, but she did teach me a little bit. And so just for those of you, if you haven't done it for a while, we're going to kind of give a very quick tutorial. If you are a crocheter out there that has better tips than me, feel free to share them or even a picture. But we have two different size hooks here, and I've just started with a little knot here at the bottom, a loop, and I'm simply coming over, under my fingers. So this is my thread of the machine, so to speak, and this is where my presser foot is if we wanted to make it somehow related to sewing, where I'm holding it. Then I'm going to go under, grab it, and pull it through. So again, under, grab, pull through. And so you can literally just do this as you're sitting on the couch, whether you're passing time in the evening. I tried to tell Cameron she could do this while she's waiting for basketball to start. I don't know if she's going to take me up on that or not, but you could do this at any point in time. So you see, and so as I'm moving forward, if you want to relate to quilting, my fabric is going through that presser foot and getting pulled forward. So under, grab it through the loop. This is keeping my string taut. Now you just got to be careful that your loop doesn't get too tight.
Which is what I'm at right now.
On this part right here. If you keep this part too tight, I can't get in there. Again, not a professional on this, but all I'm caring about is getting a long chain done. And even if my chain isn't perfectly straight, guess what? It doesn't matter because we're going to be gluing it onto the Christmas ball anyway. I think this could be great fun because, of course, Stacy, we'd pick the same. If we had to pick some colors, we'd probably pick the same one, and I kind of think that'd be really cute. You could alternate your rows. You could have two colors going. You could do red. You could do gold. Conveniently, we're saying red and gold for our cyclones. Are you going? Is there a game for you this week for a cyclones?
I am not even sure. I kind of only go one day at a time.
Yep. And we're starting basketball here. So anyway, we're getting that chain action going on here, okay? So after I have a long chain, and I would actually keep going, and Stacy has hers going. So there's my chain, okay? Then I'm going to come back into my ball, and you have a couple choices here. We're using one that doesn't have a top on it, and we're going to actually create a loop after we get it. As these ones all use the top, but we're going to come back in and tie it later, so you could repurpose it.
Jamie, before you start that, what size hook are you using?
We have 2 different sizes, and I think it's whatever you have that you want. Gosh, I don't even know what my size is.
Mine says 9mm.
And this one says nothing.
Yeah, right.
No, it
No,
says
it
made in
doesn't
the
say
USA.
anything.
55 cents.
Huh.
This is from my grandma. I actually like the smaller hook, but when you're using a bigger yarn, it's probably better to have a bigger hook. So again, that's on this particular instance for this particular project, it's more of what you have and what you can use is what I'm thinking. So then after I have my chain done, and I would actually not stop it until I've wrapped it so that I know that I have the length that I need. But for the purposes of what we're doing here, I did one that I stopped. So then if I have my chain that I'd started, I would come back in here. I would just actually wrap my tail and put a spot of glue on there. And that way, as I start gluing it, I know if my tail is long enough, my chain is long enough as I wrap it around. This one, I do not know if it's long enough because I just made it so we could get one shown. Okay, so I'm gonna start up here. And Stacy, if you wanna start yours with, she's got the bigger ball that she's gonna do. And we got 2 glue guns here. Let's see if we can get these to balance on the table. And we're simply just gonna put a dab of glue down and then just start gluing and wrapping. Now do remember, hot glue can be hot.
Yes.
So keep your fingers out of it. And then I'm just gonna run some glue around my ball. And I'm just gonna start wrapping. And I'm just snuggling that yarn right up to the row before it. And I would actually cut that little piece of hanging thread off. Okay? So are we getting the idea of how this works? And gosh, that sun just decided to start popping through as we started filming here. So I'm just taking my chain and laying it up right next to the previous side. Does that show what all is? Can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah, the sun is shining really
Here, if I
bright.
go this way.
Yep.
Does that help? So I'm just taking a little dab of glue. We'll share. I'm doing this kind of backwards, and I'm just running that chain, snuggling up right next to the previous row. See how I'm doing it? And like I said, I would cut that little. Let's take the chain, and I'm just snuggling it up right next to the previous row. Okay, and then I just keep wrapping it around and around and around. And so if I fast forward ahead here, cut that off because it's annoying me. If I fast forward ahead here, so you can see maybe why I wouldn't want to cut it until I know I have enough to get on the very, very bottom of it. Whoop. And so I'm not gluing everyone on this one. And so you could do the same thing. You could just come back in and give it a spot glue every once in a while as you're wrapping. And there goes one of them off the table. I think these would be really cute just sitting in a bowl though too, or on a tree. You can make a rustic look. Okay, so like this one, this is why I would keep the chain going because this one is too short. I'll come back over here, Lizzie, does that help?
Yep.
This one is too short. where I'd be finishing at.
Mine is too.
So that, but you haven't.
I have too much on top, so.
So you just got to keep it tight and keep going. It's a learning process, and luckily we can keep going and adding it. But you see how when we start doing it, if we do it tight enough, you don't see the color shine through. So then you end up with something that looks like this. These ones were very loosely knitted. Again, depending on what kind of yarn and what you're using is going to determine the look that you're going to get, which is kind of cute, you know? And so yours is going to end up more fuzzy, cute, right? So another option you can do, maybe you have some different shapes hanging, sitting around in your house or something. You could even make a chain, and I'm using purple, which I guess you would have a purple tree probably, and you could do the same thing with a tree. I'm just going to hold it here really quick, and you could wrap your chain around the tree. And then you could come back and put some sequins or color it. Obviously, you may not want purple, but have you ever thought about just ripping some fabric? Remember, we've talked a lot about the raw edges, and sometimes you don't have to.
When you have extra scraps laying
Mhm.
around.
So if I can just rip a piece off here. I know, I'm so strong that way. So then we just literally start wrapping at the bottom. Start at the bottom. And you could do different colors,
You could layer it so it's different.
variegated
Make it look like
tones.
snow on it.
Oh my
some
gosh.
white snow.
Yes, or different colors of green. So as you see, can you see that, Lizzie? How we
Yep.
could just simply do that, and the same thing, we could come back and add some little sequins or
That would be
snowballs or anything like that. So
Really
a
cute. Be cute to
simple
put with your
project.
village that you put out for Christmas.
You can make a little star for the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a little Santa hat. But anyway, so just some ideas, maybe of a quick project that you could use with things that you may have laying around the house, in the scrap bucket or something like that. Just maybe, at Thanksgiving time, I don't know if you like to do this, Stacy, or not, but sometimes it's fun just to have some sort of little craft to do.
Yes, the
and
kids
you know.
love to do crafts, and I think they could do this.
Type of activity for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's just fun. So share with us your comments and maybe some ideas, little things that you use, some of your scraps or that yarn for besides this. I know Stacy has another idea with some yarn that we might get to with the in a couple weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. She doesn't know it yet, but she might be doing the Take Home Tuesday that week. So please share with us your comments, your ideas. We love it to see how our creative community and how our followers at Hen Chicks Studio jump right on board and share their ideas with each other, because we sure get a lot of ideas and we learn a lot from other people. And then we hope that you find time this week to give thanks for all that you've been given. So until next week, enjoy.